Hi, this is Pearl and welcome to my channel. We are finally starting 2020 Project Life and this is week 1. This will be my 10th year doing these albums and I have to say I love going back and looking at previous years and seeing how life was so different, and this year is going to be so different with the coronavirus and the pandemic that's going on. You would think with the stay-at-home orders that I would be getting a lot more done, but no, because I have 4 kids, they're all at home and doing online learning, and just the busyness of life. So for this week's project, I am using the Edwards Stories by the Month. It's her January kit, and it's a subscription-based kit, and I'll have all the information linked down below if you're interested in this. So I laid out my photos. This is the week that I took the kids to Mammoth Mountain to go snowboarding. I have a firm belief that I need to teach the kids things that I love to do, and I love snowboarding, so I took the kids snowboarding. The bigs had been there a few times, and this was the little second time going. So I took them there, and I'm going through the 3x4 cards and the 4x6 cards and trying to decide where these are going to go. I'm also going to have an insert in this with some extra pictures as well. Now I'm trying to remember to use all of the embellishments that come with the kit. I have a tendency to forget, and I just do the words and pictures and then forget all about it. So here's the word pause, and I tried hand lettering and I don't know what I'm doing, so that's why it doesn't look very good, but that's my one little word for the year. And I say pause because I want to pause before I take a bite of something to eat. I want to pause before I say something so that I'm responding versus reacting. Pause before I do anything, just taking a moment to pause. I'm learning that from meditation and whatnot, that I should just slow down and pause. So I'm using the letter stickers that came with the kit, and I'm putting OLW for one little word on the bottom of that picture. And the reason it's a picture is because I put that into my journal. I wrote that pause into my journal. Now I'm using black StazOn ink, and the reason I do black StazOn ink is because I can stamp onto photos and it won't smear off and it dries pretty quickly. I'm using the Felicity Jane date stamp. Nope, I changed my mind. I'm using the One Canoe 2 date stamp, and this has a different font and it's smaller and it's more simple. I don't know, maybe sans serif? Is that what it is? Anyway, I like to date stamp every single one of my photos. Sometimes I think I should just write the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because I go by week. I keep thinking maybe next year, for the year 2021, I'll do something different, because then all 4 kids will be in school full time and there might be less to document. I don't know, but I'm going to think about that when it gets closer to the date. So I'm taking the stamp from Edwards, and it says Fresh Start for fresh powder. I'm practicing it on a piece of paper. And one thing you need to know when you're using a new stamp, you should rub it against your hand so that it stamps nicely and doesn't have any spaces in the stamp. So you can see I'm trying to press really hard, and there's my Fresh Start. It's not perfect, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to cut up these tags that came in the 4x6 card, and I'm going to cut up the one that says Love This. I'm going to use crochet thread after I punch a hole in the middle, and I'm going to use that to thread this tag. And then I'm going to use Stampin' Up! Dimensional foam. Oh, I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers hole puncher here. Then I'm taking white crochet thread, and I'm just going to thread this label. Then I'm going to use Stampin' Up! Dimensional foam, and I like this foam because it is not as thick, so I always purchase that from Stampin' Up! Now on this Get It journal card, underneath it says some of the stuff I'm working on right now. I wrote using the Stabilo Dark Gray Fine Liner. With our icon passes, January 1 was a blackout date, so we headed back up to Mammoth on the 2nd to get a few days of snowboarding in. Kaya took lessons the first day, and then we all boarded together. And she's 5, so I gave her an extra day of snowboarding. so snowboarding lessons, I should say, so that we could all snowboard together after that. Now this picture of my son is at a gas station, and somehow they remembered this particular gas station and which exit it was off of, and I write using a label, and these labels are some extras I had from all the Studio Calico print and cut labels that I purchased from them for their Project Life or documentary kit album or kits. I wrote, the boys wanted a particular shake from a gas station. They even remembered which gas station, which is just crazy to me. And I don't know why they like those. It's the kind of shakes that they have it in a cup in the freezer, and then you have to put it in this machine and it blends it all together. So now I'm using my tiny attacher. It's not the tiny attacher per se. I bought this at a scrapbook store a long time ago, and I can't find these anymore. She says she got them from Europe somewhere, but it uses the same staples as the tiny attacher. So I'll link the tiny attacher down below. Now I'm using this chipboard, the chipboard stickers. I want to make sure I use them all. And I'm going to stick this one onto the bottom of the photo of the 5 of us, and it says, let's do this together. And then I'm also going to look at another chipboard, and I'm going to put it on the one of my 3rd son on the bottom left-hand corner, and it says, hello baby steps, because he's still learning how to snowboard. But my kids are fearless. They just go straight down the mountain. I guess that's what happens when you learn how to snowboard when you're young. Okay, so I'm finished with this left-hand side of the layout, and I'm going to go to the right-hand side, and I'm looking at the photo sleeves by We Are Memory Keepers, and I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put the extra pictures and journaling that I have. So I have 2 spots where I think I'm going to use it, but I end up not using those photo sleeves. I'm going to end up doing an insert, and the insert is going to be Becky Higgins Design C. It's where they have 6 4x6s, and I cut the 3 right-hand sides off so that I only have 3 4x6s up, going up. So I put the We Are Memory Keepers photo sleeves away, and then I'm going to have the insert, and I'm going to work on the insert next. So first I'm going to cut the photo sleeve. I'm trying to show you that it's design C. I have an album with all the different design page protectors that Becky Higgins used to sell. I'm really sad that she's not going to be in business to sell the Project Life products anymore. Now this Caterpillar Pro didn't cut this very well, so I'm going to have to take scissors and clean that up. And then I'm going to put the picture of my daughter up on top, and I have to say, this is on the last run of the day. She was getting really tired, and she decided she did not want to snowboard anymore. Look at that face. Doesn't she look innocent? She's not, people. She is not innocent. So she took off her snowboard and just started walking down the mountain. So what can I do? I'm carrying her snowboard and walking down with her. I had to count to 100 not to get upset. So I am stamping on the bottom right-hand side 1 day at a time. And that's from aliedwards story kit. And you can see that I had to stamp it twice, and it didn't come out very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-ink the stays on. I carry this with me when I'm going to crops and whatever, and I just re-ink it, let it sit for a while, and then I'm going to come back to a new photo that I printed out and re-stamp that. But on the Celebrate This journaling card, I wrote 1, Kaya only needed 1 full day of class. 2, snowboarding with all the kids. 3, Kaya's determined mind, looking at the silver lining, right? 4, my patience when she refused to snowboard down the mountain. 5, when Kaya decided to snowboard the rest of the way down. After she turned, kept walking down the mountain, there came a point where there was a turn and she saw how far she would have to walk. And I think that's what made her decide to snowboard the rest of the way down the mountain. We would have been there a long time because it was a long way down. Okay, so after I'd re-inked this and I printed out another picture, stamping it again. I still didn't do it right, so I'm stamping over it and pressing harder. Ugh, look at that. It's not working. So I'm practicing my stamping, Then I'm going to print out a third picture and do it again. You can see there on my phone I'm printing out another picture. Ugh, so frustrating, this girl. It's not even this girl's fault, but you see how I blame her for it even though she's not even there. Yeah, she tries my patience. So this chipboard says saying goodbye and saying hello, and I'm putting this on that photo of her where she looks so innocent. And I'm going to take that photo that I reprinted and I'm going to stamp one day at a time one more time. I'm also using the Avery index tabs. This is the 1.5 inches, and I'm cutting out the labels, and I'm going to stamp my fave on one side or on both sides of the label, and I'm going to stick that in. So what I like to do is I have a layout for each week, and if there are more pictures that I want to include, and I try not to do this too often, but if there are more pictures that I want to include, I always include an insert that is not a 12 by 12 size. So this is 6 by 12, and I do a lot of 8.5 by 11s as well. So I'll do an insert and I'll put an Avery tab in there just so that they know that that's an insert and to look at that page before going on to the right hand side of the page. So now my fave is coming from the stamp set from Studio Calico. Can't remember which stamp set, which Documenters kit this is from. It must be the January kit. I'll link it down below once I figure out which one it is. See, and now this one day at a time came out much better after much practicing. Then I'm using a stamp chamois to clean my stamp. Now the stamp chamois is not really to clean the stays on ink, but I just go with what I have. So I'm also going to stamp one more thing, and I'm using my VersaFine, and I'm stamping my fave on there. And VersaFine is so good for detailed stamping, and the little words there work perfectly with the VersaFine. Now I end up not drying it well enough before I stuck it into the label, but that's alright. I always have to put my stamps back right after I use them, or else I'll lose the stamps, and I've been known to lose like the little itty bitty stamps before. Okay, now we're going to work on the back of this insert, and this next picture is of my car when it wouldn't start. So it was, of course, on the last day we were snowboarding. I had taken all the kids to the car, and then I pulled up to the front of Warming Hut 2 to the lodge to return Kaya's snowboard and boots because I'd forgotten all about that until we got in the car, because the boys and I had rented our snowboards from somewhere else, and Kaya did hers at the lodge because she was taking lessons there. Yeah, well, so I left my DVD player on while I ran in to just return the snowboard. Literally, I was gone a minute, maybe two, and then my car wouldn't start. What are the chances? So while I was waiting for the tow truck to come, thank goodness for AAA, the boys got the snowboards out of the back of the car, and right next to the ski patrol, right behind where my car is parked, there's a little hill, and the boys, or not the boys, the kids, I always call them the boys, but the kids, because Kaya was included, they all snowboarded down the hill over and over again for like an hour. So I wrote, after we were done snowboarding, I turned off the car but left the DVD player on to return Kaya's snowboard. Then the battery died. The kids, quote unquote, sledded down the hill on their snowboards. They loved it. They loved it so much that even after my car started, they didn't want to leave. Isn't that crazy? This is free fun that they could have had. I didn't even have to really pay for snowboarding. So I stamped capturing all the magical memories on there, and I put the chipboard A New Chapter Begins onto the top picture. But these are the stories I want to capture, but they're not big enough stories for me to document on a 12 by 12 layout, so I like to include them here because these are little stories that we want to remember in the future. So now we're going to the right hand side of the layout here, and I apologize that it gets blurry. My camera goes in and out of focus sometimes, and I'm not quite sure why. So this is how my layout is going to look. I'm taking this star, and it says bring it on, and I'm going to put it on the bottom photo of my second son riding the rail. I'm putting this Adore This chipboard onto the picture of my daughter and myself. We're riding a lift together, and it's like literally a dream come true. Of course, I put the chipboard on there incorrectly, so I'm having to print out the photo again to put the chipboard on there again. Okay, so this is one thing I've noticed with the Epson printer. When I make a mistake, I can't lift up anything with adhesive on it, letter stickers, chipboard, or anything, without ruining the picture. Whereas on my selfie, I was able to lift it off and reposition it. Does anyone else have this issue? Does anyone have a solution for this issue? Please let me know down below. So this top one I stamped Everyday Moments, and it's of my oldest son bringing up the rear when I would snowboard ahead of everyone else so I could get them on video. Now a lot of these photos of my kids when they're in action are stills from the videos I took of them. So they're not the greatest photos, but I'd rather have the video of them because one of these days, far in the future, maybe when I'm retired, I'd like to get all of these video clips together and make some kind of home movie, you know what I'm saying? So I'm taking this chipboard that says Just Happy, and I put that on the picture of all 5 of us up on the mountain. And I put Welcoming onto the bottom chipboard, where all 4 kids are in our hotel room, laying in bed on their electronics. I figured this is just as good of a way to relax as it is anything else, and it's easier than managing 4 kids going into town and waiting for a restaurant to go sit down when we just brought food into the hotel. We did takeout. It was amazing. That way I could just rest and get my energy ready for the next day. So on this journaling card it says, I want to remember the joy I felt when I was snowboarding all together. And it says, I want to remember what naturals both Uni and Kaya were at snowboarding. And then the last I want to remember, that I do know how to practice patience. Just a reminder for me. On this Renew and Refresh journaling card, I wrote, Zach was looking good, smooth, linking his turns. Christian was going off the jumps and riding the rails. Just something I want to remember about this last one. So this is my week 1 of my 2020 project life. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave any comments or questions you have down below, and I'll see you next time.